On June 16th, 1979, Dallas's Michael Carter launched a high school shot put 81 feet 3 1/2 inches. This distance, which not only captured the Golden West title, also set the national standard, which has stood for 40 years. In this short tribute to an achievement multiple track and field media outlets proclaim as the #1 high school feat in track and field all time, we'll interview world-renowned throws coach, former SMU head coach Dave Wollman, former national record holder, fellow Dallas native Sammy Walker, Michael's high school head coach James Neely, and Michael Carter himself. So thank you for watching the TTFCA's second installment of Backtrack. All right, so your record of 72 3 1/4, 1968, it precedes Michael Carter's by a little over a decade. So in the last 40 years, he's held this record. Do you see anyone breaking it?
No, as we discussed earlier, Stuart, I do not. There was a kid named Nick Vina that broke Michael Carter's freshman, sophomore, and junior records, and they improved very little. Michael Carter's senior year was absolutely phenomenal, and he threw 75, 6, and 7 several times. And that last throw at the Golden West, when he threw over 81 feet, was quite incredible.
And you were just telling me a little bit about that last throw of his prep career.
Yes.
Can you reiterate about that? And we'll check with Michael on that energy.
Make sure. Well, Michael was getting ready for his last throw with a 12-pound shot ever. This is his last chance to throw a big throw. And as the way I understand it, the PA announcer was going to announce Michael Carter getting ready for his next throw in the middle of him bending down getting ready to throw. And that stopped him, so he tried to refocus. And the way I understand it is, as he was getting ready for the throw, the 800-meter runners that were real close to the shot put ring on the track came rumbling by and broke his concentration again. And there's some adrenaline flowing there. I think a lot of adrenaline flowing there. And so that was a very help when he went from 77 to 81 feet, that's 4 feet. Who else on the planet has improved 4 feet on their personal record? Nobody. Nobody improves 4 feet.
All right, so you know him well. You both attended SMU. You've mentioned you've trained with him, etc. What makes him so special as a shot putter?
Well, it's my opinion that when I was in high school training, I threw 100 times a day. And I've talked to Michael, and he threw probably 150 times a day. And he worked on his technique more than anybody at that particular time. Of course, he used the O'Brien style. He wasn't a spinner. And what I try to explain to you, I tell everybody about the logistics, the mathematical deal about pulling a bow and arrow back. If you pull a bow and arrow back this far at the right angle and release it, it's going to go so far. But if you pull it back here, another 3 or 4 inches, and release it, same angle, it's going to go further. And Michael had that pull. When he would kick across the ring, and he'd come across, and he would be putting force on the shot, but longer. As a matter of fact, many of his throws were out of bounds in the left sector because he was continuing to push on that ball with his explosiveness. He was possibly, in my opinion, the greatest O'Brien technique. There's other people that threw further, yeah, possibly, you know they are. But he got the most out of that, though, because he pushed on that shot longer than the rest of the throwers did.
Okay, so now you said you have thrown with Michael.
Sure.
When you threw with him and watched him, what were your thoughts?
Well, the first time I threw with him, he came over to SMU his sophomore year in high school. First of all, I heard some kid in the 9th grade throw 70 feet with an 8-pound shot, and somebody told me, I said, nah, I don't think that happened. And then when I found out it did and found out who it was, he came over and worked out. This is probably long before he thought maybe he wanted to go to SMU. So we worked out that day, and he was throwing around 65, 66, and I was with the 12, 16-pound shot, I was throwing around 66, 67. We had a good workout. So I picked up the 12-pound shot first time in over 10 years. I said, Michael, this is how far you're going to throw your senior year. I kicked across the ring to 12-pound about 77 and a half. Except for that one throw, that's about right. I hit it right on the nail. But his training was good. He didn't hit the weights like I did. And that was probably a negative for me because I probably trained too hard with weightlifting. He had a real perfect combination of weight training, running, and focusing on technique. I was very impressed with the man that he focused on technique so much.
That was going to lead me into my next question. What is it about his athleticism overall? You mentioned he did not just stick with weights.
Yeah.
He did all sorts of stuff. What is it that makes him such a unique athlete?
You know what? Partly God-given talent, partly an incredible desire to compete and to accomplish his goals. Because I knew full well when he was a sophomore that he wanted to break my record. And guess what? I knew full well that he would. As a matter of fact, I was a little bit happy he didn't break my record his junior year because he threw 71 plus his junior year, came close. So we're looking at Michael. How far is he going to throw? No way in the world I would have predicted he'd throw 81 feet. But I figured he'd throw in the high 70s, which would be phenomenal. And then you have the 81 footer, and it's past phenomenal.
You mentioned you were in LA when he threw in Sacramento.
That's correct.
How did you hear of his throw, which you just described as phenomenal, and what was your reaction to the 81-3?
Well, we got off the victory stand. Dave Lout had thrown 69 feet. He was the best thrower in the world at the time, by far. And there was another man, I forgot who got second, but I got about third place. I threw about 66. And UPS guy came up and said, did y'all hear, he was talking to Dave Lout, did y'all hear that Michael Carter just threw 81-3? And we all were dumbfounded, and Lout goes, 81 feet? And the next word that's out of his mouth were, hell, I couldn't throw that far. So he was the best thrower in the world, and he just told the man he couldn't throw it that far. So on that day, Michael Carter had no peers. There was no person on the globe that could have thrown 81 feet except for Michael Carter. If I threw my best, I guarantee it'd be 77. And what's his name probably throw 79, maybe close to 80. But he said, no way I could throw 81 feet. And he was serious.
Wow. Well, as you know, this summer is the 40th anniversary.
Yes.
You know Michael well.
Yes.
So with your friendship and your respect for Michael, I'm just going to give you a moment here to say anything you'd like to Michael on this 40th anniversary.
Okay. Michael, you, aside from what you accomplished personally in the shot put, which is phenomenal, and you should have won the 84 games, I think that big Italian guy beat you, but you're still the best in my heart. You raised Michelle Carter, and guess what? You didn't even ask her to throw a shot put. And Michelle Carter with the gold medal in 2016, I was one of the most tickled to death I ever was at watching the Olympic Games on television. And Deidre, national champion discus, Texas Tech. You have 3 national champions in your family. Most people are not aware. Only family in the country have 3 national champions from the same family. So I have all the respect in the world for you. Always have, always will. Michael Carter, you're the greatest, and I got news for you. You'll go to the grave with nobody breaking your record.
All right, so tell me about your memories first of Michael Carter's 81-foot, 3.5-inch shot put you said you were throwing at the time.
Yes, I was at my university, University of Indianapolis, and I was a shot putter and a football player. And yeah, it was clearly the shot heard around the world. And when it was posted, half of us didn't believe it, and we immediately assumed, because a lot of the light shots were going around everywhere, you know. So the first thought is, it's not humanly possible, right? And then you dig a little deeper and you find out. I lived in a very small world. Division II is a real small world, so you're in the Midwest. You're not paying attention to what's happening in Texas, and the world's gotten a lot smaller now with the internet and all that. But if you can imagine, we never heard of Michael Carter up until that point. And so not only was the shot remarkable, then I started looking at who performed the event and who actually accomplished that, and you could see, you could see how it could happen.
And you've seen the video of him throwing the 81
Everybody
free.
has it. Ever was born after 1980 or 1960 has seen that video, and I've seen it a million times.
From a coach's perspective, all right, you've been the head coach at SMU, you now retired, you do your own consulting with the throws, well respected. From a coach's perspective, what does he do well to go 81-3?
Well, the shot put is a linear accelerative event, so and it's a shot put or the shot push. You're going to push the shot in the direction of the throw. You're not going to throw it using your elbow as a lever. So it's how soon can you get behind the shot, and how far can you stay with the shot. So the linear drive, where the hand gets behind the shot and then releases the shot, if it happens from the ground up, from a long way, the farther back the better. And Michael was able to move his lower body, his right leg down and ahead without moving his shot put 1 centimeter. So now imagine this, he's moving across the ring full speed, and his right leg turns down, lines up in the throw, moves the hip ahead, and the shot here sat in the middle and didn't do anything. It just stored energy. And then he turns, and he's got this long drive phase where it starts from behind the middle and it ends beyond the toe board. And no one has ever before or since had that long a drive phase and have done it in less time. So when we talk about acceleration and creating force, time, how quick you accelerate something determines final velocity as well. So Michael's ability to get behind the shot, keep the shot moving, and drive it a very, very long way was second to none before or since. And it was remarkable. I can also say though, his high school performance, that technique when I believe it was at the Big West meet, whatever they used to call that out there.
The Golden South? Or Golden West?
It was Golden West. It was at the Golden West, and it was his last competition as a high school senior. And honestly, you just couldn't imagine hitting a better position and coming out of it. I don't think he repeated that in college. Otherwise, it would have gone farther.
Prior to getting as big as he was actually a sprinter. Did that help him at all?
It did. It helped the time element. He was plenty strong for his size, but he could move behind the shot. He was still strong enough to accelerate the 16-pound. So he didn't really need. Everybody says that mass has a big important, and of course in physics it does. It has an important play in it. But there's a point of negative returns. You have to have range of motion, you have to have speed, quickness, and you have to have power. And all of those things come into play. And when he was a high school senior, I think it all lined up for that weight, that 12-pound. It all lined up for him. He was at maximum everything, including technical development. And to hear Michael, and I'm sure you're going to talk to Michael, but it was really weird because after I stopped throwing, and that was a big part of the reason I stopped, because I knew it was nothing I was ever going to come close to obtaining. And so I started thinking about coaching. And so that was a moment that I actually became, from a thrower, knowing I was going to go right into coaching, and I wasn't going to extend competitive years. So it was a big moment for me. And then when I got the coaching job at Stanford, he was playing for the 49ers. And my wife happened to work at the 49ers. So I got to know Michael and Sandra really well over the years. And I asked him all the questions I had. Right then, personally, I had to know how did he do it? You know, how did he learn such fabulous technique? Who taught him? And the stories he can tell and how he taught himself and the way he learned. We had back then, we had 16mm projectors, but Michael didn't. Michael had flashcards, and he used to tape them around the ring, positionally. And he used to take each position, I don't even know who it was he was looking at, because he couldn't look at anybody and then come out the way he did. But he was looking, maybe Randy Matson back then, you know. But Michael, the good Lord gives us all gifts, right? But Michael cheated. He got him first in every line. Speed, power, intelligence, work ethic, passion, drive, everything. He was the tops in everything. And that doesn't happen very often. And when it does, that's what you get.
And only, I believe, Ryan Krauser is #2 in U.S. history, a little over 77, so still several feet away. In our lifetime, is anyone going to break 81 3.5?
Well, so many things have changed in our lifetime. So power development has increased at a younger age, so kids are stronger. The technique of the rotation can create, I want to say that can build momentum and create velocity, maybe someday equal to what Michael did. So yeah, I think it's entirely possible somebody can pop. The right athlete gets with the right development, it could happen, sure.
And he did it on his final throw as a prep athlete.
Yeah, I still don't even know. I know I asked him this before, but I don't remember what his second best throw was. It was, I think maybe Ryan's second best throw was better than Michael's second best throw. Ryan's best throw, I still think may have been the second best throw ever, because I'm not sure Mike was ever over 78 beyond that one time.
I think you're right. Nonetheless, it is his 40th anniversary of that throw coming up soon. You said you know Michael and the family pretty well. Thoughts for Michael on the 40th anniversary?
Yeah, Michael, I've often in private told you what you did to so many of us, but I have to say that since we've become friends and I've gotten to know you really well, I'm real appreciative for your accomplishment. I want to congratulate you. You're not only an amazing shot putter, maybe the most amazing glider of all time.
So what was it like coaching Michael Carter in high school?
Well, I don't know. Dad of another thrower, guy from Lake Dallas, was a real good discus thrower, and his dad told me one time, he said, you know, Michael's very, very fortunate to have you as his coach. I didn't ask him why, because I think I knew what he was going to tell me, is that I didn't do a lot of coaching, I just did a lot of driving. I got him there in time for the meets and got him entered and all that sort of thing. Michael was one of those young men that didn't require pushing at all. He pushed himself totally. There were times like over spring breaks when other kids went fishing and did things like that. His dad told me that he would go to a high school near where he lived and work out for 8 to 9 hours, nearly every day over spring break. And that's just the kind of athlete that he was. He was very blessed with natural ability, but he was blessed more with intense desire to do well.
And before he got to Jefferson High School, were you aware of Michael? I mean, had he been making a name for himself?
In the 9th grade city track meet, he finished second, behind a kid that was coming to Thomas Jefferson High School. His dad, Michael's dad, was the soccer coach at Thomas Jefferson with me, so I knew him. And he decided that he wanted Michael to come over there so that he could get to see him more often, and then also that he felt like that he would get better coaching. Now, I didn't say that. His dad, Doug, told me that. And so I was getting the city champ from the year before, plus Michael, who finished very close to him. But that city champ ended up leaving Thomas Jefferson and moved to Gatesville. And he never came anywhere near beating Michael again. That was the end of that story.
Wow.
So he finished second behind him in most of the meets we went to when they were sophomores.
All right, now this is obviously coming up in June, the 40th anniversary of his 81 3.5-inch throw out in the Golden West.
Right.
And you were there with him, so
Yes.
take me through that day, take me through the preparations for him physically and mentally prior to him actually getting in the ring for his first throw.
Well, he ate a lot. We went out to eat the night before, and they had a special at this restaurant. It was one of these fast food restaurants, and had a special up there that was a meal for 8 or 6 or something like that, and he and this other shot putter were riding with us. So, and the guy at the meet had taken us out to eat, and he said, "Now y'all can get anything you want." Michael looked up there at that wall and he said, "I believe I'll take that." And it was, and I can't remember for sure, it's 6 or 8. Michael doesn't remember this, he says, but it was 6 or 8 meals, and it included that many hamburgers, French fries, and malts. And he ate all 8 of them, or 6 of them, whatever it was. And then we stopped on the way back to the hotel and got he and this other guy a half-gallon ice cream. So he, you know, he was prepared. That was the night before. But then the day of, it was, I think it seems, if I remember correctly, threw the discus before, and he had a perfect wind for a discus thrower. It was dissecting the area that he was throwing into perfectly. But he just couldn't quite hit it right. So he was a little bit disappointed. Then later on, they came to the shot. They built up a special ring because they knew he was going to be there in the middle of the grass area in between the tracks. And I mean, it was super good looking thing, you know, and back then coaches couldn't go up near the guys when they're competing. I had to stand behind, outside the track with a fence, and I was watching from like 50 yards or something. So I'm sitting there just like all the rest of the spectators. He gets out there and this got to see the ring before anyway, but it was perfect. I mean, it was just absolutely pristine. Had a little bit of texture to it so that they wouldn't slip and all that sort of thing. And it was a wood base, but it had been painted over with this texture. Anyway, he got up there and he was throwing really well. And he had broken his own record. I think he threw 78 or something in that neighborhood. But he got up time for his last throw. And he gets up and he starts to walk into the ring, and this announcer comes on. They're about to have the high hurdles. This announcer comes on and starts screaming at the top of his lungs, "This guy's in this lane, this guy's in this lane, and all of this is going on." And Michael's standing there going. And I was going, man, you know, this is his last 12-pound throw in his lifetime, and he's getting, you can almost see the steam coming, and he was just a nice kid to start with, so he wasn't going to get upset about it. So he waits. Guy gets off, looks around, sees there's nothing else happening. He steps up in the ring, turns around, and just starts to think about throwing. And the guy comes back on the speaker again, just screaming and hollering and all this sort of thing. So he steps out and he walks out of the ring, and he waits. So I don't know if it's the 3rd or the 4th time he gets into the ring. He gets down here and he starts to cross, and the guy starts screaming again on there. He turns around and he, bam, throws a shot down, and I'm going, oh my gosh, they're going to disqualify him. He's probably ruined the surface. And I'm standing there and nobody says anything. So he reaches down and picks up the shot and he walks out of the ring. And by then you can imagine, as calm, cool, and collected as this young man was, he was smoking. Okay, so he gets in the ring and he waits. Nothing's happening. He comes across the ring, he blasts ones out there. The angle of the shot normally should be at like 25 to 30 degrees. When he released the shot, it was probably more than 50 degrees. It was up there. That thing went up, 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 like somebody had shot a long basketball shot. It went up and up and up, and I'm going, oh, the poor kid is throwing it straight up in the air. It kept going, going and going and going. And when it came down, it didn't hit in this way. It came straight down and stuck in there. 81 feet, 3.5 inches.
Did you have
amazing thing?
Did you have any idea 81.3 was in him? I mean, he was in the mid-70s for much of it.
Right. Well, yeah, he had thrown 77 in Abilene before that. And on that day, he threw 77 with a high school shot. He threw 67 something with a 16-pound shot. He threw 186 with a collegiate discus. He threw 225 with a high school discus, but it was this far out of bounds. So I knew, you know, about 81 feet. I think he had told his girlfriend he was going to throw 80 ahead of time. Did he tell you that?
You are correct.
Yeah. And, you know, all through his high school career, they were always asking, well, Michael, you're throwing really well. What's your goal? He says, I'm not going to tell you, or he just said, I don't know, or something of that neighborhood. But his goal in high school was to beat Sammy Walker's record with a standing throw from the front of the ring, which he did, which was 72 something. He threw a standing throw from the front of the ring over 72.
It almost sounds from the story that we can sort of credit the announcer for part of this.
Yeah, I think so. Or knowing Michael, and he wouldn't mind me saying this, but it's probably, I think it was God's will that he did this. Michael, if you've talked to him very much, you know he's a very religious man. And when I talk about Michael Carter, I get excited because he's a great athlete. He was a very good young man, but he's a great father. He's a great human being, and he's a very good Christian man. And I can't take credit for that. I think his mom can take most of the credit because she's a wonderful woman.
Which now perfectly segues into my last question for you.
Yes, sir.
It is his 40th anniversary. Time obviously flies pretty quickly.
Yes, sir.
Parting thoughts for Michael on the upcoming anniversary.
I can't think of anything that I could say to encourage him any more than what his family does for him. He's watched his daughters throw and do very well. He's got a wonderful wife that loves him, and he goes to a very good church and has been a big part of that church. He's also been a big part of helping other young people be successful, and he's been a big part of my life. And any success that I had that was given to me for being his coach, I can only not understand why it happened to me and why I was so lucky to be there, but I'll forever be grateful.
Your lowest throw of the entire series at the 79 Golden West, outside of a foul on the fourth throw, is 67.7. You had 3 throws in the mid-70s. Were you shocked at the 81.3.5, or was this a long time coming for you?
It was a long time coming because, you know, going into the Golden West, I was wanted to break the national record. I was fired up and ready to go, and I was going for 77 feet. And I realized that was my last high school meet of the year. And I had to, I had to get it. It was a do or die situation, and I was going for it.
Were you conscious this was your final throw of your prep career?
Oh yeah, I had 6 throws, and I know this was my last 6th throw, and I got down to the number 6, the very last one. and I mean, I had to really, I had whatever I had to put it all in that one throw. And as I remember going into the meet competition, they had started a race, and we were right on the curve. And I asked for permission to come out the ring so we can reset, because all the noise and the cheering from the crowd. And then they allowed me to come out the ring, and I reset myself. And then when I got back into the ring and they focused all the attention on me, I just knew, you know, this is it. This is my last throw. I had to get it done. And I let it go, and I just watched it sail past the flag.
Your throw is often considered among the greatest achievements in high school track and field history, one not to be broken for some time. In fact, I think Ryan Krauser may have been the closest, somewhere around 77. Do you expect to see it broken?
Well, I thought it'd be broken a long time ago, you know, because once you set a record, you know, records are meant to be broken, and I just knew there was a goal and it was out there and people were going to go shoot for it. And I watched many people come by and try to break it. And I watched, when I heard about Krauser, I went and watched it, and I'm like, out of all the people I've seen so far, he had the best chance to get it. And he played around with the javelin, and he hurt his elbow, and I'm like, you know, opportunity, you know, went by. But going into this year, 40 years, that's a long time. Make me feel old. You know? But I would love, if someone's going to break it, I would love to be there to see it. I want to be around to see someone throw that far.
Here is a still photo. You mentioned a few moments ago you've seen video, but you haven't really seen a still. When you look at that picture and it takes you back 40 years, what goes through your mind?
Well, look at this picture. It's like, it's all over again, deja vu, you know, because I've watched it many times and people bring it up all the time, you know, constantly. And just to be able to see a still photo, you know, brings back a lot of, you know, things that I was going through at the time. You know, going into that meet, my mind was set to break 77 feet. And I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, which is my wife today. Right before she got off the phone, she said, throw 80 feet for me. Whoa, where did that come from? And all of a sudden, now my focus has changed from 77. I was just looking to break 77 feet. And now I'm looking at 80 feet. So, I mean, I really had the pressure on me because I didn't want to go back home and face her, and I didn't do it. So, when I released the shot on that last throw and I saw it sail past 77, I just wanted to see where was it going to land. When they did the measurement and it was 81 feet, I was floored. So that was a good throw, great throw.
When I talked with Sammy Walker, he remembers, and you correct me if I'm wrong, he remembers that you were stopped twice. Once when the announcer broadcast your name after you were already getting ready in the ring, and a second time when the mid-distance kids came by and you sort of got angry when you got back in the ring. Did that help, the 81-3?
One thing I've learned to do over the years, you know, when I was a young athlete, whatever bothered you, people say, you know, negative situations, negative words, whatever, I use that as energy. And I bring it inside and then I use that to help me motivate myself to do what I have to do. I don't care what it is, but even football or in the shot put ring. And then when I was stopped, especially on that last one when the middle distance was running, there was no need to get upset, but I was, you know, frustrated, and I just took that energy and internalized it and then let it out in the shot.
So what is it about your technique, your athleticism, that allows you to own basically 5 of the top 10 spots in U.S. high school history?
Well, it goes back to my 9th grade year when I was in junior high. At that time, 9th grade was still in junior high. And I was learning how to throw the shot. And the best I could muster was 46 feet as an 8th grader. And I said, okay, I'm going to learn how to throw this thing. I'm going to learn the glide. So I went and found, you know, pictures of throwers that's throwing, and I just laid it down in the dirt because we didn't have a ring. And I said, I'm going to teach myself how to throw it. And I taught myself how to glide just by watching photos. didn't have videos, of course, the internet at the time. And I took off from there because my sophomore year I won state, my first year in high school, at 64 feet. And I think I did 65 that year. Then the following year I went 71, and that year was the one that spearheaded everything, because at the state meet my junior year, 1978, I had one throw that was a foul 3 inches outside the sector, and they measured it afterwards. Of course, it was 73 feet. I would have had the national record as a junior, and so I was so upset. And I said, "Okay, enough of that. When I come back my senior year, I'm going to get the record." And then I had set my goals to break the record, and when I did, I got the schedule for that year. And I started out, I said, okay, the very first one I wanted to break the record, which was Sammy Walker's, and I put down 72 feet, 4 inches, so I can make sure I break it. And I wrote down every meet after that, I added 6 inches, because I wanted to break the record every time I stepped out. Lo and behold, I didn't break it on my first meet. I was upset, and I came back my second meet and continued to break it from that point on.
But you started out with photographs, self-coaching?
Yes, because we didn't, at Zumwalt, I was in the middle school at Sarah Zumwalt in Oak Cliff. There was no ring, so I drew a 6-foot circle in the dirt behind the base softball fence. And that's where I practiced every day. And I taught myself how to throw. And when I was in high school, my senior year, I went up to SMU, watched those throwers. Sammy Walker was there. Bishop DeLake showed up. It was a number of the older throwers, and I just watched them, and I'm like, okay, this is how you train. And you know, they talked to me about throwing and lifting. You know, everyone said I was very weak, you know, as far as the weight room was concerned, but I learned how to use my leg, which was the strongest part of my body. And I think that's what my success is, and that's where I'm trying to teach kids today. Learn how to use your legs, because that's the strongest part of your body.
So at what point were you coached?
Not until high school. Basically, my coach says, he was let me have it, just let me go over in the shot put and discus area, and then I just worked it from that point on. I had my own workout. Even to this day, I am convinced that there's no high school thrower ever worked harder than me, because 80 to 100 throws of practice in one event is nothing for me. So I would do between 80 to 100 in the shot, then go over to the discus and do anything from 60 to 80 throws in the discus. And that's one day. I do that Monday through Wednesday, then I curtail it off after that so I can get some rest, get ready for competition.
So between the two events, you would take basically about 150 throws a day?
Yes, especially the first part of the week.
Talk about Sammy Walker's influence.
Sammy, you know, when you meet someone who has the record, whose name is up there, and being a kid from Dallas DISD, Dallas Independent School District, and I saw that he had the national record. He had the national record at the time. I'm like, wow, you know, here he is right in my back door. So, you know, I looked at it and I went and found out he was still throwing over at SMU, and I go over and watch. Me and my high school roommate, a teammate, and we would sit there and we just watch him, you know, at least once a week, once every 2 weeks, and Sammy would talk to me, and you know, and give me a little pointers here and there, things I was interested in, and I talked to him about it. And other than that, I just used that information and all the other information that I gathered, and lo and behold, I just went after the high school record. I wanted to make sure I get it, and then make sure I kept it in Dallas for the longest I can.
And you and Sammy have been good friends ever since?
Been knowing him ever since I met him in, I want to say 78, somewhere in there. And I competed against him in 79.
According to a 1979 Sports Illustrated article I read, you are quoted as saying, "Football is my main sport, and playing professional football is my main goal," which obviously you succeeded at. "Track is a good way to fill the time between football seasons." Still feel that way?
Well, you had to make both sides happy. You know, because if I was I was a two-sport athlete, high school and college, and if I just said track and field was my main, shot putting was my main interest, and made it look like football was secondary, then I would catch flack from the football coaches because I was able to not to go to spring ball or off-season football. I was able, when the last football game was over, I was right in the shot put ring the very next day. So I didn't have to do that, split my time between football and track. So I had to say things in a way to keep both sides happy because, you know, even once I got to SMU, draft day, the biggest knock was on me. They said they didn't think I was serious about football. And if I wasn't serious about football, why would I play it during, you know, splitting the time? But I showed them once I got there that I was serious about football when I committed just to football. But the thing about it is, being a kid here in the state of Texas, everyone knows about football. Half of every male has played football. So that was it. I mean, everybody started out playing football and I was a football player. But when I found the shot put as an 8th grader, I fell in love with the shot. And you know, I see myself as a shot putter who played football.
Interesting. And on that note, can you talk about the importance of being a multi-sport athlete? Because it seems like so many coaches these days are territorial, where I want my kid with me all year. So what do you think is the importance of a football player going to track or a swimmer going to another sport, etc.?
I don't know if it applies to swimming, but for football, when you're talking about being an athlete, I think on the football field, people forget, first of all, those guys are athletes. And when you take them out of being an athlete and put them in a box, and all you can do is just football, you do the same drills and the same movements over and over and over, you're limiting yourself. Then all of a sudden, when you get a track kid who comes out to play football, they think that's the brand new thing. You know, everybody get all excited. I'm like, being an athlete, everything starts out here on the track. You learn how to run. You learn how to run fast. If you take that and you bring it over into football, all of a sudden you're a superstar. But football coaches forget that. They want the kids, like I tell my kids, the kids that I work with, the football coach wants you there 13 months out of a year. And you're limiting yourself. Now, if you get someone who's an athlete, who can run, who can jump, who can do all and move, and the agilities, then you get him and teach him how to play football. And then you take that track work over here in the football field on the gridiron field, all of a sudden they're a superstar. But they forget that, and they want the kids to be in a box where they can control them, and you can see it that they are limited because there are linemen I watch who are big and strong but really can't move that well, but they can step and pass block and pass rush, which that's all they really need to do. But if you ask them to run and chase the ball to the sideline to make a tackle, they spin for about 3 or 4 plays. They can't do anything else. So, you know, it's great to be an athlete playing sport, and whatever sport it is, it doesn't matter. But you know, the bottom line is you're an athlete and be athletic.
Yeah, you mentioned, you know, as well being fast on the track. You had speed growing up. Many people don't know you were a sprinter at one point. As far as I can tell, you had a 78-yard end-around touchdown run at Thomas Jefferson. So how important is speed not only to athleticism, which sounds like a very simple answer, but to your shot put technique?
Well, you know, speed is everything. If you have speed, you can do so much more than anyone else who are a little bit slower or don't have as much speed. And I came out of junior high in Zumwalt to Thomas Jefferson. I mean, they clocked me at a 4.540. And I had speed, even a lot of people don't know this unless you were there. My senior year, I anchored a 4x1 while I was a shot putter. You know, I got the
That's
baton.
awesome.
I got the baton in first place and came in second, but that was okay. But speed is vital. If you have speed, you can do a lot more. So what I did in the shot put ring, I wanted to have speed in the ring, come across fast as you can, and be able to shift gears and be able to do the movement inside that 7-foot 2-inch circle at the time. And with speed is power. And a lot of the kids don't understand that. If you have speed, you have power. You don't have to bench press 600 pounds and squat 700 pounds. You come across and you hit that position and you explode out of it. I mean, the shot and the discus and everything else will fly. So what I did, I looked at my technique and said, my senior year, and I'm looked at it, I'm like, now what can I do to make me quicker in this ring? So I had, between me and my children, I had coined the term, I'm not a glider. Michelle tried to say I was a hyper glider, but no, I told her I was a skimmer. I skimmed the surface of the ring. I wanted to stay low as I can across the ring, hit my position, and explode up. So, you know, when you sit there and look at it, they say, okay, you hit the center of the ring, and you turn your foot, get your hips around, and drive up. I said, now if I take away one of those movements, I think I can get a little faster. So what I was working on, when I hit the center of the ring, my foot was already turned. My hips and knees were pointing in the direction I was throwing. So all I had to do was just hit and explode up through the shot. And that's what I was doing. And that's when people say, I watched your high school film, I said, there's a lot into that you don't understand. So don't just watch it, because I have to explain some things. So that's what I did. I used my speed, stay low to the ground, and took away a couple of movements. Like you have a pre-movement. It's already said, all you have to do is explode through and execute, and it's gone.
Is that something you created on your own through trial and error, or did that come through looking at a lot of the photographs you had placed in the dirt?
Well, the photograph is what the basic technique, which I mastered. Like I teach, I say, you have to master the basics. If you got the basics, then you can add your own little flavor to it, and that becomes your technique. So I looked at it and I said, okay, what else can I do after my junior year? What else can I do to make myself a better thrower? Make me quicker in the ring? And that's what I did. I looked at it. I had 8mm film. I had 16mm films of other throwers, European throwers, American throwers, and I had the 8mm of my own self throwing. I watched that constantly, every day, just to see what I can see and what I can learn. And I said, okay, stand low. If you looked at my high school film, when I come across the ring, when I started in the back of the ring, my chest and stomach was on top of my thigh. You can't get kids halfway to that position today. And come across low as you can, skim the surface, explode up through the shot, and the lower you are, and if you're able to come out of it explosively, that's power. If you have power, you got it. That's why I can't emphasize enough with these kids today.
Has anyone imitated your style? And, you know, in the last few years that you've seen that is on their way to being successful, like a Pippery out of the Woodlands, has anyone?
No, because right now the trend is everyone wants to be a rotational, a spinner. And that's where they go. And so right now, you see a few of them who look like an athlete in the ring, you know, where you see the movement, you see the torque, you see the hip. Then you see the rest of them who wants to spin as fast as they can and bench press the shot put. So that's what you see now. But you don't see many gliders unless you go over to Europe or you watch the women throw on the senior circuit. Other than that, you won't see it. And then the people who say, well, I try to imitate your technique, good luck with that one, because there's a lot into that.
True or false? At the Golden West, where you threw the 81-3, the meet officials placed a small American flag 77 feet from the shot put circle to mark your then high school record. As you mentioned earlier, you requested that they place it at 80. When the shot landed, you saw it pass the requested 80 feet. You grabbed the flag, waved it over your head, which for you is a rare show of emotion, and you were asked to take a victory lap, to which you replied, "I couldn't run that far."
Well, let's set the record straight. First of all, at the Golden West, they had placed the flag at 77 feet. All I was doing was looking to see how far I had to go to get beyond that. I didn't request for them to move it at 80. When I went and hit 81 feet, everyone was encouraging me to grab the flag. I didn't want to do it, so I did it anyway and just waved it over my head. And they told me to take a victory lap. Not to get out of it, I just said I can't run that fast, even though I could have ran it, But I was a quiet, reserved person, shy. I didn't show too much emotion, and even to this day I don't. So doing a victory lap would have been a lot for me. So I would have been okay to stand in the middle of the field and just wave and say thank you and move on.
So the record is coming up on 40 years this summer.
Oh my goodness.
How does it feel to own one of the truly remarkable records and to have passed on the passion of throwing to your children? Because all three of your children, they have thrown. Michelle, obviously, with great success at the international and Olympic level. But when you look back, how does it feel to still have this record after 40 years and have it remembered in interviews and articles and requests, etc.?
When I said it, at the time that I set that record, I'm like, okay, it's done. I'm getting ready to move on to something else. But I knew it was going to be broken. I had no idea that it was going to last this long. People would tell me, well, that record will never be broken. And I've always remembered, records are put out there for people to break. Because if I was coming up after that, as a shot putter, I would go for that record. So I'm waiting for people to come around, but for it to last this long, as I got older, really be able to appreciate it. That it was a feat that was tremendous. When you sit back and look at it, wow. I did that. You sit yourself outside your body and look at it like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Because at the time, all I was looking for was just doing something to the best of my ability. And it just so happened that it went 81 feet because someone basically challenged me and said, throw 81 feet for me. And to sit back and watch it, because I didn't talk about it when I was in, I'll mention it, I'll talk about it if someone asks me a question. When I was at SMU, I didn't talk about it. Football players there asked me. And once I got into San Francisco, it's all football. We don't talk about high school. They'll ask me, man, how did you throw that far? And I give them a little answer. I said, hard work, move on to something else. But I didn't bring it up with my kids. They didn't know anything about it. And then when Michelle came to me and said that she's going to throw for her 7th grade team at Red Oak Junior High, I'm like, I questioned. I'm like, who told you that? Who asked you that? What did they say? Because I wanted to make sure it was her decision to throw and not someone coaxing her to throw because this is what your dad did. So when she told me, I was like, okay, well, if you really want to do it, okay, I'll help you and I'll coach you to do it the right way.
If you were growing up right now with the weight training advancements, nutrition, etc., video capabilities, would you break your own record?
I would try. I mean, I can't say it, for sure, but I guarantee I would give it my best shot in whatever I did at the time, because what these kids don't understand, with all the information that's out there, the internet, the publications, everything that's out there, it is so easy. Get your fingers on the information and work hard. And as long as you work hard and put it into play, you have a great chance to do great things. But what I found so far is that a lot of these kids sit back and they talk about how good they want to be and what they want from. They don't want to put the work in. And with the internet, especially because I go on YouTube and I look at other throwers, I look at the best throwers in the world, past and present, and yeah, I would have gave it a good shot because I would have chased it down, may not gotten it, may have, I don't know, but I guarantee my name would have been up there with whoever had that record.
Well, Michael, as we mentioned, 40 years have passed, and we certainly appreciate your time. You look wonderful, and we look forward to many more years of you watching the potential of this record being broken.
No, thank you very much.